Decent. All right. So, holiday lights. Yeah. So back sort of by popular demand, but apparently not that popular since this is no more than the usual crew. Um, yeah. So anyhow, there are some updates. This is literally copied and pasted in my Google Drive from the one that I gave. I believe it was in 2022. However, a lot has changed since then, so hopefully some interesting stuff. This is hopefully inspiration or maybe inspirational, a little bit of show and tell, high level overview, yada yada. You'll be able to. Oh, why are we not updated there? Am I not sharing properly? Or is it just super, super delayed? Yeah, I don't. My mouse cursor is black. There we are. All right. So this presentation may not be inspirational now, but it's enough that you can Google if you do want to replicate this. It is not a tutorial. It is not financially sane. Um, Easily replicable, a little bit more so now than it was, but also, well, yeah, you'll see. Software and hardware in use. New. Come on. There we go. Okay, so I just have to like shake the mouse every time I switch slides. Got it. Um, Computer to run FPP, also known as Falcon Player. I believe the original acronym was Falcon Pi Player, Falcon Player Pi, or something like that. But it they've sort of gone away from their strictly Raspberry Pi based stuff. So Falcon Player, also known as FPP, handles scheduling. It actually runs the sequences and plays the audio and all that stuff. It's the thing that is sort of the brains of the operation. I have mine running on a Tridge N100 mini PC that literally uses the like half Visa mount to just screw some wood screws into the wall near my front window because that's where the FM transmitter unit is. I have very old windows there, so they are not the low E stuff that blocks a bunch of wireless signals. So I just have a bit of antenna there, and there you go. That's how I get my signal out. It's the headphone out of the mini PC into this really sketchy, like single sided, almost PCB thing from Amazon that has a little screen on it and some surface mount buttons. That, yeah, you solder a wire to of the appropriate length, and now you have an FM antenna. And if it goes more than 200 feet or so, the FCC might not be happy with you, but I don't have that problem, so we're all good. Wired networking gear, also known as managed switches. I have a separate VLAN for this. I ran into some issues when I had them just on my IoT VLAN. So I do have an IoT VLAN that is for most Internet of Things gear, because they like to talk to each other. So it's just easier to say, sure, you can all talk to each other on this VLAN. However, it was not very usable when I tried to add lights to it. I'm assuming because of the chattiness and the latency on all that stuff. The controller especially would just kind of keel over every now and then. It wasn't very happy about things. Also, there's less traffic going through the firewall. If X lights, let's see here, less traffic going through the firewall. I think that bullet point might be left over. But yeah, I debated basically having like, ooh, let's put X lights or FPP on one VLAN and the actual thing that drives the LEDs on another. But then it was like, no, because then the firewall is going to be in the way and there's going to be added latency and yada yada. So just drop them all in the same VLAN. There is a WLED install on the controller itself. So I could call the FPP the showrunner PC. And then the controller is the WLED thing that is basically an ESP. It's a dig quad, which means that someone else designed and built it, and it actually has fuses. What a novel idea. I never did that in the one I built. And then WS28 something, 2811, 2812, 2812B. There are all these variants that are all basically the same thing. LED strips and connectors. And the process here is you do some soldering, you do some ladder work, preferably not both at the same time, but hey, got to do what you got to do. You can see here an older version of the controller that was literally just an ESP32 with Ethernet board, WT32 ETH01, if I remember the model right. When I was building my own controller, I included this slide with these pictures still intentionally because This was part of the process. Part of the process was learning to do things the wrong way and why you don't do them the wrong way, why you don't build your own controller. So this is the general process, though, right? Some sequencing, some hardware is your design, your build is all the hardware. Measure, 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 because that'll bite you if you don't. Lots of soldering, mounting everything to the house, and then discover that you need more power, change little things, and of course, lots and lots and lots of cussing, because what project would be complete without that? So the WS28 whatever light strips that I mentioned, they're addressable. The ones that I have specifically, they're not individually addressable. They're addressable in banks of 3. I don't know why for sure, but I believe the reason is just laziness of voltage drop. Because if each LED takes, just a little over 3 volts and you're shoving 12 volts at it, well, then guess what? If each one's taking like 3.3 volts drop across the LED, you just put 3 in series. And now you only need to you can just count that as a single pixel and you're good to go. So each one does have RGB subpixels within it. But for the purposes of what you'll see later in the software and all that, it thinks a pixel is what you will visually see as 3 distinct points of light. Because of the way that it's 12 volt thing. If you get the 5 volt strips, it's actually individual. If you get the 12 volt, it's almost always banks of 3. Different voltages like 24 volt, it just kind of depends on the specifics of the setup. It can do some basic persistence of vision and like low frame rate video type stuff, but I don't have enough for any of that. I have exclusively BTF lighting stuff. They've been reliable enough for me. Cheap enough, etc. They're just sort of enough all around without being anything super fancy. Soldering, right? I mentioned soldering. For those that, why is it not? There we go. It blinked for a moment. I use lots of soldering in this project. At the end of every LED strip, and then of course at each end of those LED strips needs soldered stuff on the controller. All sorts of things. Waterproof strips do not come with waterproof connectors. Why? I'm not entirely sure. There are companies that sell them with waterproof connectors built in. But again, I'm a little bit of a cheapskate, and these are good enough for me, so I do my own. You can use silicone dielectric grease if you're lazy like me, and you don't want to solder some of them for whatever reason. I have tried this. It generally works. I would still recommend soldering. But yeah, I have tested, and I do have one strand that is just basically these connectors with a bunch of dielectric grease shoved at it. And it generally works. It's actually the one with the least issues I've had so far. So hopefully that will continue working. When you're troubleshooting hardware, specifically the old hardware I had before, things are serious when you're pulling out on a cylinder. Why is it jumping back? We're still on this slide. Thank you. So an oscilloscope, right? So the thing that you can see the waveforms and voltage over time and repeating oscillations and all that stuff. And then, I eventually purchased a different control board, which is the Dig Quad I mentioned. I did have 2 iterations of a controller that 2 completely different iterations of a controller that I built. One that was me guessing at things that I found out later never should have actually worked. I still don't understand the electrical physics of why it did work, but it did. And I'm grateful that it worked for the time I had it. But I did build a controller that was done more or less the right way, probably less than more. But it was using the driver chips that are recommended. It was using the values of capacitor that were recommended, the resistor, like all the things right. It did not have much in the way of screw terminals. It had a handful. It didn't have fuses. It didn't have really any sort of isolation between things in case something went wrong, which are all features of pretty much every commercially available board out there, such as this one, which now I have one of these. These are both screenshots from the website where I bought it. I believe these are the only things that are not very specific to me that I took of my setup. These were just screenshots from the website. But it's a nice clean picture there. Again, maybe a little bit of free advertising here. Down in the presenter notes, I believe it's Dr. Z's is the name of the shop. Then I never remember the exact number of Z's. But anyhow, as I'd mentioned before, it's basically a DIG quad board with Ethernet tacked on. DIG quad is basically a pretty well engineered ESP32 controller board or PCB, almost a daughter board for the ESP32 there, as you can kind of see. It's sort of just pieces tacked on. The fuses, as I mentioned, they saved me this year. I had a dead short between 12 volt and ground on a solder joint that I made. Still not entirely sure how I managed that. I have a bit of an idea, but we're not going to talk about that. The good news is that I only blew, I think, 4 fuses. It took a few tries, took some fiddling. Of course, my first thought was, oh, there must be something wrong with the board. It can't possibly be something I did, which that's how we got our second fuse blown. And then, yeah, I don't remember if it was 3 or 4 that suffered. So then the fourth or the fifth is currently in there now.
You clearly didn't use nearly enough dielectric grease.
Yeah, no. See, if I wouldn't have soldered my own connector, I would have been fine. Tasmoda is this wonderful thing. Come on, screen. There we go. Tasmoda is this wonderful thing that you can flash to these devices, these sawn-off devices. Sometimes. I say that because the sawn-off devices are so low cost that I bought 2 of these. One, I got the flash to work once, and it failed when it tried to connect to Wi-Fi, and I haven't been able to get it to boot properly again. This one works, usually, and is the relay for my FM transmitter. The sort of ironic thing is that these are about $15 a piece and are literally just a live and neutral relay with, again, some firmware that comes proprietary, so I flash the Tasmoda firmware onto them and use them that way. However, the little miniature IoT outlets that are, I believe, Casa brand, you can get those for as low as, I believe, $10 a piece during sales. So there's not really a lot of advantage here, especially since the built-in APIs on device of the Casa stuff, you can do the same thing with. If I were going to do this again, I would definitely just use one of those IoT outlets, but this one's already in place. I already have it in all the scripts and everything. And yeah, there. I'm getting word that perhaps we have them available for $5 a piece now. I was not able to find them at any retailer for that with shipping and everything. I believe I bought all mine from Amazon. Perhaps if you go to a different retailer, you might be able to find some cheaper. And maybe if you buy in bulk, you can get the shipping cost down. But either way, they are relatively low cost. And if you can get your custom firmware on there, they work pretty well. If you can't, I don't know that I would want that stock firmware on my network. That's kind of the level of sketchy that it is. So let's make sure, where am I going? Tasmoda automation. Here's where I want to be. So it's just a cron tab, basically, that powers on and off the FM transmitter. It's FPP scheduler, which is built into the Falcon Player stuff to do the actual playlists of the songs. And yeah, that's basically the automation. You can see here that the script turned the transmitter on and turned the transmitter off. And they're basically one line of code scripts because I have had issues with cron doing things with arguments. For some reason, on the command line, I can put things there and it just doesn't work. But as soon as I give it a full path to a script, it works fine. Even if I literally copied and pasted the code that was there into the script, and that's the only line in the script other than, you know, the bin bash or bin sh or whatever. I think I've even tried it with just the line and it works. But regardless, this has been a lot more stable for me, where if I can just have an unbroken string for the command. So that's basically what those are. You can see an example of the script there. It's you know, the shebang bin bash comment, say what it does. My hashtag UF at the end, just because I like to do that, even though I know that UF typically is not that. So the box itself is Debian 12 with the FPP script run, which is a very long story in and of itself, but it did not work with Debian 13. We'll just leave it at that for now. If you want to know more later, I'll be happy to go into the detail. The FPP script, though, for anyone's like, what is this? Basically, since they're primarily for Raspberry Pi, what the developers of Falcon Player will do is get the image from the Pi Foundation, right? Raspbian or whatever they're calling it now, Raspberry Pi OS, I think. And they'll run the script along it or against it. And it does all these things that effectively turn it into a Falcon Player SD card. Like it's the script they use to make the images that then they publish to GitHub. However, there's nothing stopping you from just running it on stock Debian or Raspberry Pi OS x86 edition or whatever it was that they had available that seems to not be updated anymore, which is why I just ran it on straight Debian 12 this time. So from there, we have Xlights. Xlights is where the magic happens. And if you're watching this in the recording, I believe it was Jordan that had some questions or wanted to know more about how the actual programming of the lights work, right? How do you tell the lights to do the thing at the part in the music that they need to do the thing? And what thing are they doing? That's Xlights. You can use other programs. I believe Vixen 3 is a relatively popular one. I used that the first year that I did Christmas lights. I did not have all the LED stuff like this. I had LEDs, but they were traditional string style of lights with physical relays. You can output all sorts of protocols from Xlights directly or to export to something like the Falcon Player FPP stuff. And yeah, you can also do scheduling with it. The previous iteration of this presentation, I actually had that running. I had X schedule is what it's called, and it was running on a laptop, same laptop that I did a lot of the programming from. Not all the programming. I eventually started shifting the programming to a different laptop and just exporting the entire project directory and uploading it and doing it that way. So here's the Falcon Player UI. You can output all sorts of protocols from here as well. I believe it's the overlap between Xlights and Falcon Player is very, very, very high, as you might expect. This, again, similar to Xschedule, you can use it for playback or scheduling. It is much more stable than Xlights directly, though. Xschedule, I had to fight every single time. This took me a little bit of getting used to, but once I got used to it, it pretty much just worked. There are a few little quirks here and there I run into, but usually nothing that can't be solved with a restart of the FPPD or Falcon Player daemon that you can see is that sort of differently colored button down there at the bottom. I also have a website. I'm using GitHub Markdown. Waiting for the screen to be happy. There we go. So I have a website, Holiday Light Show, holidaylight.show. I don't know how that was available, but it was. Now it's not. So you're welcome. This is where I put things about the schedule notes, information, etc., all that sort of stuff. Previously, I had a Google Drive spreadsheet that I would use for these things, and I would just show and hide the rows as necessary for the different stages of things. But I got some feedback that if you were on mobile and you said you wanted to open it in Google Drive, it had issues. If you told it to open in a web browser, it worked, which was very confusing for a Google Drive link. But that was a quirk that I was able to confirm. I got a device and had it not signed into that account, and like, oh yeah, this is a problem. So that got me pushed to find a different solution, and here it is. So the end result looks something like this. LED tape is mounted in an aluminum channel with diffusers installed, hence why your measuring is important. There's a wall-mounted controller box that you can see kind of in the inner corner of the house there. That's new as of the last presentation. It was just a plastic container under a tarp with some electrical tape cardboard on the backside of the PCB. So I have actually upgraded to not quite, or maybe NEMA spec. I'm not entirely sure if it's NEMA spec or not, but it's basically just low voltage, so it's not that big a deal. Pro tip is go to Fastenal for self-tapping screws if you need to go into the metal of your gutter, because trying to get the head size of the screw that is small enough to mount under the clip between the aluminum channel and the gutter, like so the LED tape sits in the aluminum channel, the diffuser goes on top of that, and the whole aluminum channel clips into a clip. and the clip has a hole in it that you put the screw through. So the head of the screw can't be too big, or else the aluminum channel can't sit far enough in to actually clip into the clip, which was a problem for far too many years before I decided to make a trip to Fastenal, and it has not fallen down since. It fell down at least once a year prior to that. Just a little bit of wind and the right angle and everything could rip it right out. But anyhow, so yeah, silicone glue. Fun fact: silicone, especially the type that they use for waterproofing these strips, is kind of chemically inert. Like, it doesn't like to react with much. So trying to get an adhesive that can adhere to it is rather difficult. Turns out silicone adhesive is compatible with silicone. So that's sort of my go-to there. Silicone adhesive also works with a lot of other things, but for some reason, silicone in general is not real happy about that. So before the demo, are there any questions?
So I just wanted to second, Fastenal is a wonderful, magical place.
Yes, Fastenal. I've heard of MasterCar is also great. I've not personally purchased from them yet. They're
Illinois, so there's a good possibility you can order in under 24 hours.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and Fastenal's website, there's a guy on YouTube that does a really good review of the website and how well they've optimized it. Fastenal, there's a location very within driving distance of me. Like, I went there on a lunch break to get these, basically. So, yeah, as it McMaster-Carr has everything kind of, but Fastenal is specifically fasteners, as you might expect by the name.
Not did you keep it, the other one?
Yeah, for the emergency places also, I've had good luck with the Ankeny True Value hardware store.
Okay.
They have a very nice older lady who was willing to spend way too much time to sell me like 3 or 4 bolts, and there's no way that they made enough money to justify that amount of service that they provided.
Fair. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions, concerns, etc.? All right. Demo time then. So I have here my X-Lights instance with a song loaded up. Now, quirk of this video software, you won't be able to hear anything. This is Wizards in Winter by Trans-Siberian Orchestra, so feel free to go find it on YouTube if you want to play along, and then just find the exact timestamp I'm at and hit play as soon as I do. If you want to hear it, that's how you do it. Or as Andy mentioned, we might just aim the microphone at the computer and see what happens, and maybe get the world's worst quality as a person with a background in audio. That will hurt my heart, and I might not be able to publish the recording. But hey, it'll be better than no audio, right? Here is Falcon Player, right? So this is live. I'm VPN'd into my home right now, so you can see that right now it's a little drummer board. You can see the percentage that's going on here. You can see the volume it's at. You can see that it's my 2025 Christmas V1 playlist. Turns out I didn't need to make a V2. I got it right the first time. Now, it only took how many years to do that? And then, because how do we know that this is actually working, right? I have a camera aimed at the front of my house. So you can see that it is doing things now because it's in night mode. You're getting effectively black and white. So you can see that there are lights or no lights, but you cannot tell what colors they are. This will, at some points during the show, get bright enough that the camera goes, it's daytime. And then you can see colors for a little bit. And then the brightness dies down a little bit, and it's like, it's nighttime again. So that's always fun to watch. So this is what's happening right now in real time, effectively. I don't want to say instantly, right, because there's latency in the internet and all that, but and also the frame rate of the camera is not good enough to program with. I did program while I was at an airport using my phone as a modem, VPN into my home. That is when I finished the sequencing for this year. But anyhow, so we are going to, and I have a note on my Holiday Light Show page about this. We're going to interrupt this, and we're going to click stop now, and it'll actually stop my light show. And once it finishes loading, maybe, I said stop now. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so notice how you've got these loops and stuff are all on. That means the controller is sending stuff to it now. So let's see if we can go 6.8.20. What is it? 27.19, I think. Yeah, here we are. So this is the controller itself. This is the dig quad that I mentioned that's in that little box. We've got the config here, so we can set up the LED preferences, and we can change all the things about, right? So WS 28.1, whatever, 28.11 in this case, I believe. Length of 400, the GPIO pin that it's on, all that good stuff. The pixel order. So technically, these are not RGB pixels; these are BRG pixels. So if I fed them an RGB signal, the blue and the red channels would be reversed. Yeah, it's the order of data, because if you were here for the previous iteration of this presentation, right, the way that they do data is basically take one for yourself, pass the rest along. Take one for yourself, pass the rest along. So first the red, or no, in this order, the green. Wait, hold up here. I am not using the fourth channel, so we're only looking at channels 1 through 3. So BRG. So the very first packet of 8 bits of data you send goes to the first blue subpixel. The second 8 bits go to the first red subpixel. The next 8 bits go to the first green subpixel. The fourth set of 8 bits goes to the second blue subpixel. And basically each time it gets a chunk of data, it's going, this is for me, you get the rest. So yeah, it just sort of dynamically scales with whatever you've got. So if we wanted to, we could, adjust the color of this, right? So if we didn't want it to be orange, which is the default, we could pick a blue, and that may even make it so that we can actually see the color. Nope, that's not bright enough. However, we've got a brightness slider. Right now we're at 100. Let's go up to 255. And look at that. Now we can see it's blue. Let's go red. And then let's go green. Yeah, look at that. All right, cool. So let's not burn out anything here. We're gonna go back down to 100 if I can. If I can hit 100 exactly. Come on now. I think I can use, yeah, you can use the keyboard arrow keys to adjust that in little increments as well. Okay, so we do not need to be looking at the dig quad anymore. So we're going to close that. Let's come back. All right, let's play something just so that we've got something going. Let's play. Okay, there we go. Now we're playing our playlist. Okay, but let's stop that again. We just want to kick it out of that weird state that it was in. Stop all playlists. There we go. Okay, great. Now it's back to weird, but it's default weird. So we're going to go over and go to our sequence, right? So I'm going to zoom in on a little bit here, and you can see maybe, and if you can't see, let me know, because I'm watching my screen more than that screen. If I click on a thing here, it'll preview up in this window here. Now I do have an everything to brightness. What this is a fun little way that you can control the brightness of different parts within a sequence. Now, what I found is that this preview window is basically impossible to see if it's not at full brightness. So what I'll typically do is the brightness levels for the whole show are the very, very, very last thing that I do, because otherwise I can't see what I'm programming, right? If I go over here and I select this, I'm having a really hard time seeing that I have anything there because it's just so dim. If I come over here, though, to where I've got the brightness at 100%, ooh, I didn't mean to zoom out quite that far. Let's try here. Scroll. Oh, there we are. Go back a little bit. Oh. That was not happy about that. Okay, so red. Let's select our red. Yeah, so you can see there's the preview of the house, right? So then if I take a chunk of music here and I select that chunk of music and I hit play, then you can see what it's going to do. And if I turn my speakers up a bit, let's see if I can get this to output to my speakers. So I don't know if that's coming through the stuff or not, but we'll do that again real quick. So this is near the end of Wizards in Winter that I have programmed. So let's take a look and watch our thing as it's going. And you'll notice something kind of weird's going on, right? So let's loop this. And I'll adjust the volume. And you notice lights aren't doing anything. And that's because we haven't turned on our output. So this little bulb icon is your output. So if we click that, then it'll output to the lights. So in real time, we are messing with my light show. And if anyone's there, they're not hearing this because this is on my local laptop, not out there. So they're going, what is going on? If they don't check the website and realize that it's within the time that I mentioned for the demo. And yeah, and if you think that's annoying, hearing that same loop over and over again, yes. Try doing this for hours and hours and hours, trying to get everything to line up just perfectly. It's a little painful sometimes, but it works. So let's put our show back. For anyone that's out front that has a little kid with them that really wanted to see this, we could just pick the playlist and it should carry on merrily, but I'm not going to do that. I am going to restart FPPD, which will basically shut the whole thing, the whole daemon down, the whole service, and restart it and recheck the schedule. Because one thing that I found is that it can be a little finicky if you play something by default, or at least by the way I've got mine set up now, default, it'll loop. So if I manually restart the playlist, it might miss when it's supposed to stop. So it'll just keep going and going and going while I'm trying to sleep at night, which is not conducive when my bedroom is one of those windows there. So yeah. So I typically will do the restart FPPD if I've been messing with its schedule, and then it will resume. Now, it does not pick up where it left off. It doesn't know that, like, ooh, I was playing for 45 minutes and now I'm at 50, so I need to be in this part of the playlist. No, it just restarts the playlist and will continue until it's been told not to. I should probably show the scheduling component to this. So if we go into the content setup, we've got the scheduler. And you can see here that it's, and it has the thing here, higher items in the list have priority. So basically I have an item here. Yeah, here it is. So at the very bottom, and the check mark enables or disables, right? So even though these are higher priority, they're disabled. So these two aren't ever going to happen currently until I check the box. And then, of course, you have to hit save. So this bottom one, you notice every day, and it's all time, right? It's 12 a.m. to 12 midnight. And the reason they have those is because, as we all know, time can be an interesting concept. So 12 midnight is specifically used for the end of day. Or if you were in military time, I think a lot of times they'll use 0 to start and 24 to end, even though they're technically the same moment in time. But that way you can list a full date without being like, oh, 59.999, whatever. So yeah, and the graceful stop basically means it'll finish the sequence it's on before actually stopping. Yeah, it'll finish that song or that. See, song is a weird word, though. I often use song, but technically songs have lyrics. And most of the musical pieces that I'm playing do not have... Look it up. Look it up. Look it up. Part of a song's definition is with words, is with lyrics. It is just a musical composition if it does not have words. It's instrumental at that point. But regardless, you could also have a sequence that doesn't have any audio whatsoever. So everything in this is a sequence. Not all of it is music, and then not all music is a song. So that said, yes, layman's nomenclature, it'll finish the song. It will not finish the playlist. So I believe mine actually finishes normally when I don't interrupt it like this. It finishes after the first song plays, because that just happens to be, it's about 14 minutes for the full run, and for the amount of time that it's going, that's just where it ends up. There is a teeny bit of drift, but it's on the order of like a couple seconds across the several hours that it's on. So it's not like sometimes it ends on this song and sometimes it ends on this one. It's pretty tight. As you might expect with modern computers. Anyhow, so then I've got Halloween here, and then higher priority than Halloween is Christmas. You've also got other things here like the file manager, right? So all the different files. I did legally acquire all of the audio here. I actually purchased it from Amazon and downloaded from there because I want to be as above board as possible with this, following the FCC rules for transmission limits and the copyright rules. One little throw a wrench in your plan if you might want to do this is that apparently the way that copyright laws have been interpreted for the purposes of displays such as this is that if you are not taking any money from anyone for anything, then you can have it be your personal usage if you've legally acquired all of the assets to do the thing and don't owe anyone any licensing fees or anything for your personal usage of those things. As soon as you take a penny from anyone, even if it's directly to cover expenses of your display, it is now considered a commercial installation and you need to pay commercial licensing fees. So every now and then I've got people that have more money than me saying, hey, what if I buy you such and such? And I go, no, please do not, because then I will have to pay all the licensing fees and then I really will need money. So,
or you take donations to the local food pantry, that also probably would trip the commercial.
yeah, so taking donations to the local food pantry can be gotten around, though, if you don't take the donations. If you just have something that tells people perhaps they should donate if they like the thing, but like you're not taking any claim, you're not saying put my name on it, you're not in any way doing it, you're just saying, hey, look, I did something cool, maybe you should do something cool. As best as I can tell, that is fine. But yes, if you're being like, pay me and then I'll pay them, yeah, that's absolutely not going to win you any points. It might also be against certain nonprofit rules. So,
or hand me a can of soup and I'll give it to them. That also would probably get you in heartburn.
Yeah.
If someone actually cared enough to be a great.
Yeah. No, the closest that I have come to accepting anything with this is labor. I will happily have certain people help me go up on ladders and do things. And someone suggested a song that I did not want to program. So I said, if you program it, I'll upload it. They did not program it. I think they spent about a half hour and got 3 lights there. And that was it. Oh, so speaking of which, I should probably do a little bit better job of this. So I showed how the thing, I need to not be outputting to my show. That's going to be conflicting with it. It gets really angry if you do that. So this is how you program basically. So you take the thing from up here on this little effects row and you click and you drag. And now that's an on. So now roof line is on red for that amount. If I want to change the color, I change the checkboxes. So I can click there and then I go over here. Oh, it's not happy about that, is it? Oh, it's still looping. No. Let's close X lights and reopen X lights. Oh, and I'm almost out of battery too. That's no fun. So we'll go to start. Yeah, okay. So let's just do a new one. We can skip that version this time. We'll do a new one, make it nice and clean. We'll do an animation, not a musical sequence, not a song sequence, musical sequence. We'll do 20 FPS because why not? Bigger chunks of time. And then we'll zoom in a little bit. We'll scroll over here. We want the on. Let's do rectangles. So everything that's a rectangle that I've set up there will go on white. And you can see the house preview. It doesn't have the roof line. It just has the rectangles. Let's say we want that not to be white. Let's make it red. And then the other Christmas color is green, right? So we're gonna do bars. Although because bars can do a couple things, let's make it red and green. And then look at that. Now you've got bars that are red and green. And then let's take curtain. Curtain is one of my go-to effects. It basically is a wipe. But they think of it as a curtain. And again, you can have multiple colors or you can just have single color. I tend to do a lot of single color stuff. And you can see here that, for example, in curtain, the left edge and it's opening, right? So you can imagine that perhaps if it was, if you were picturing a theater play where the curtain goes up and down, that you could have the curtain edge at the bottom and then the effect. There's your curtain opening or there's your curtain closing. Or you could have it open and then close. Or you could have it close and then open. and the swag width is well, the width of the swag, I guess. I haven't played around with that a whole lot. And then the speed, right? How fast does it go? Boom. Which if you really want it to go faster, I would say just shrink the effect time here, right? Like instead of having it take 5 seconds, have it take 1. And that'll help make it faster. That's typically how I adjust it. Well, what if you want it on after that? Okay, well, great. Add an on after it. And then there you go. So now it does the thing. So now if we do something like this and we hit play, and we can see it's red, and then it does bars, and then it does the curtain swag, and then it's on for a little bit, and then it goes back off. And if we hit our loop button, then it'll loop that. And it'll just keep doing sort of whatever we've done. There is a priority level here. I believe it's things higher up take priority. But that comes with a bit of an asterisk because you can either have models or groups, and groups take priority over models, which seems backward to me because the models are like the core object. Anyhow, I won't get too far into the weeds on that, but just know that like there are a bajillion different options and weird little quirks along the way that if you get into this, you'll probably have to learn a lot of those because otherwise you'll be like, wait, why is it doing this? I thought I told it to do this and it's doing this other thing. It's kind of like when you're trying to program in Python, but you didn't know that the tabs matter or the spaces matter. You thought there were curly braces that you were just not seeing. Not that I've ever run into that myself, but yeah, it's something kind of like that where you've just kind of got to know what you don't know. And then once you know what you don't know, it kind of becomes second nature dealing with it. You don't really think about it. You just build habits around these things. So yeah, with that, any questions now? And if not, I will go back to the wherever it was, this thing. For anyone that wants the link or whatever. And there you have it.
We can also put it out in Slack / email list or whatever, as well as provided this recorded the way it's supposed to, which I'm pretty sure it did. We'll be able to share this out to the interwebs, and hopefully that audio isn't enough to make YouTube scream at us.
Yeah, so fun fact. Everything that I've uploaded that's Trans-Siberian Orchestra so far, I get a little notice that's like, hey, this is copyrighted music. But TSO's cool, so they say you can use it. I'm like, okay, thanks.
I mean, they are very cool.
Yeah, and like and I think that they recognize that a large part of their thing on the internet now is people doing this with their houses. They've both sort of fed into each other. The reason I had the idea to do any Christmas lights like this with my house in the first place was a video that I saw probably circa 2006, 2008, somewhere in there. And yeah, it was fascinating. And I'm like, I want to do that. It was a Lightorama. So whenever Lightorama came out, it was probably like within a year or two of that.
But perhaps that's wrong.
I'm merely guessing the date. I didn't track it. It was well before YouTube, though. The YouTube video that's there, I believe, is 15 years old. But this was way before YouTube. This was like a WMV file that was emailed around that I saw. But video also
exists on YouTube. It's a house that had
just LED-based incandescent style lights,
right? Like
the little thingies and like a wreath and all this stuff. But they had done it to Wizards in Order. And I thought first time I saw it, I'm like, I ever own a house, I'm gonna do that. And now I have.
So
yeah.
So the slide deck has been posted to the